Hey there, BookTube. Noah. Thank you for coming by my channel. Everyone who reads it must converse. And I'm going to do a bit of a tag tonight. I was tagged by the Bookish Bryants to do what did I do? The I am the reader tag. All right? And I am the reader. That's for sure. And so this is a great tag. This was put together, I believe, by Kelly at Books I'm Not Reading. Great job. A couple of these, like maybe one of these questions, I answered on another tag. We'll get to it, or something very similar. And I, was kind of thinking, but then I actually came with a different idea. So, I saw the Bookish Bryants do this. I saw one of the people they tagged do this. A couple of others. I've watched a few of this one, and I think it's really good. So enjoy, guys. First prompt: choose one word that describes being a reader. And the first thing that popped in mind is what I go with: expanding, expansive. Um, when I read, I get out of myself by going into a book. And now with that, I'm talking about fiction, but not just fiction. I'm a reader of spiritual texts. I've read a lot of spiritual texts in my life. That's my real passion as far as reading is concerned, is to read some spiritual texts of all traditions. I've read all kinds of stuff. Some as a seeker, and a lot as a practitioner. I love reading spiritual texts. It's very expansive, but also big epics and sci-fi, and and even something like Stoner. You can check out my review on Stoner. Something like that. That's just another life other than your own. Allows you to expand your own experience. So you can experience something that you never experienced in your life by another character. And is that character a true, a real person? No. But, what happens with them has happened to people, in a very real sense. People are people, and we make choices in our life, and then we abide by those choices. We live with them. So there it is. One word that describes me, or being a reader, is expansive. 2, what is the first book that you fell in love with? And I've touched on a couple of early works that I remember liking a lot, and that really kind of made me want to read or something. But when I thought about the first book that I really loved, this one came to mind, because this one I really enjoyed. I loved it as a kid. I loved it. I saw the movie, not the movie that is, this is probably the first time on my channel and the last time that you're going to see a book that is actually a movie tie-in. And it's because this was on my daughter's bookshelf, and I got it, 50 cents at a used bookstore or something, and said, "Oh, I love this as a kid. Y'all should read this." And I grabbed it for them. And it's Tuck Everlasting. So, Tuck Everlasting is a story about a family that finds a spring in the middle of the woods. They find a spring, and when they drink from it, it's the fountain of youth. They become immortal, and they're immortal. This immortal family that is living out in the woods, total, and it's just a joy. So when I was a kid, I loved this. It was one of the first things that I really loved, and I've recommended it to my daughters and to friends over the years and stuff like that. It's a easy read, little novella. 3, hardcover or paperback. Now, honestly, I'll get whatever. I don't care, hardcover or paperback. If it's something that I think I'm gonna love, or something that I have read before and I know that I love, and I want to get a copy for my shelves, then I'll get a hardback. But for something that I don't know what it is, I'm more than happy to get the paperback, because then I can read it, and you know, uh, I'm not getting it for posterity. If I love it, and it's something that I want to keep forever, there's paperbacks that I've had for years that I love, that just haven't found a hardcover to replace with yet, stuff like that. But if I find something hardcover, a lot of the texts that I love, scholarly works, spiritual text, translations of spiritual texts of other cultures, they'll be only in hardcover, something like that. So I have no problem with getting hardcovers of things that I don't know, but I won't go for like a hardcover of like a fiction work, uh, buy a new hardcover or something like that of anything, you know. Um, that's more like, the last time I got a hardcover of just a fiction work was a gift, a gift from my mother. So thank you, Mom. 4, how has reading shaped your identity? I mean, too much, too much. I've read my whole life, and I've read a whole, an amazing, what I think is like a just amazing amount of books. When I think of how many books that I've read in my life, 2,000, between 2 and 5,000, something like that. I mean, just ridiculous amount of reading, and reading shapes my every thought. Um, the kind of things that I mean, I don't read, I haven't read fiction, uh, 50% of my reading life. I've read spiritual texts at least 50 or 60% of my reading life. So that my reading life has shaped who I am, in just an unbelievable way. It has been the main shaper of my identity and my personality. And we'll get more to that and down on another prompt. So 5, what book do you read for comfort? And as far as a book that I've read for comfort, that's the one that was also what was a comfort read kind of thing. And it's on another tag that I did. Maybe the hopeful book tag 2.0. I don't know. But there was another tag that I did that was like, what book is a comforting read to you? So a book that is a comforting read to me, Jonathan Livingston Seagull. And I pulled that out because it takes me back, and I love to read it. I've revisited that book probably more than any other, because you can read it in an hour. You know what I mean? Not even an hour. I can read it in an hour while I'm doing other stuff. You know what I mean? It's not even it's not a hard read, not a long read at all. And so I love that. But this is a little bit different. What book do you read for comfort? Like, as if I was in a very high stressful spot and was thinking, I want to read a book to calm me down, or to comfort me in a bad situation or something. Any book would comfort me. Just the act of reading and doing that is comforting to me. But what comforts me the most? So, the Bible. Why? Why not? Let's get right down to it. Open it up to Matthew and start reading the gospel. Period. You'll see. You'll be thankful for your life. And then number 6, who taught you to be a reader? So my mother taught me to read, and inspired a love of reading to me by reading to me, and also encouraging me to read all through my early life. But I can't stress enough the joy and the essential in my life of having a friend that loved to read. So when I was young, my best friend in the neighborhood when we were young kids. I was in middle school. Maybe I was even in, yeah, I had to be in middle school at this point. Sixth grade, is the grade here. Sixth grade, uh, he turned me on to the Dragonlance Chronicles, a fantasy series by Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman. I could have grabbed them. Sorry, I didn't. But he turned me on to the Dragonlance Chronicles, and encouraged me to read them. Said they were great and stuff. And then it was on. I was buddy reading. It's the first time I buddy read, something off of it, and it was a kid my age, and it was somebody who, we were young kids. You know what I mean? It was just. So that is inspiring. That encouraged me to read, and made me, you know, more or less taught me to be a reader, because I saw that it's just a normal thing to read a book, just as normal as doing anything else. Number 7, describe your dream reading lounge. Now that's just ridiculous. I don't even know. Uh, I think of, somebody like Leaf by Leaf. You have a great channel. I love this guy's channel, Leaf by Leaf. If you're not checked it out already, check it out. His library, and it's just library. It's just walls with built-in shelves. Two walls of built-in shelves. The other wall is these big, French doors, or Dutch doors. Sorry, and then the other wall is uh, a huge window, and his desk right there. And so the whole room is so minimalist for a library. It's just the built-in shelves in the walls, 2 walls floor to ceiling, and then the open floor, a big desk, and a huge window right there. Give me a comfy chair and a cup of coffee, and there's my ideal, reading lounge. Shut them doors, lock it up, and maybe some soundproofing for my 3 daughters. But but yeah, there's my ideal reading lounge. I'd like to be at a desk. I'd like to be able to, really have some stuff laid out if I'm doing some study or something, or just really, a nice light, and just be able to really just zone in, and then look out at at nature, when I wanted to, take a breath and really just like take in something that I've read. So there's that. And then the final prompt: what book changed the way you see the world? Now that's the next step on the earlier question that I said we get to later, because a book that's changed how I see the world, um, you know, there's no fiction book that has changed the way that I see the world like, spiritual texts have changed the way that I see the world. Um, and anybody, whether you're spiritual or not, whether you're religious or not, or whatever, can see that kind of thing is gonna be, the case. Spiritual texts speak to a deep, part of what it is to be human. They speak at least to the psychological aspect and the mental aspect of being human. More so, they speak to the actual reality of being and what it means to be human, the philosophical aspect of being human. And other than that, even a deeper level that is very essential to us. So, when this kind of question was asked, I thought, like, how could I narrow it down? And I understand the spirit in which the question was made. I think, Kelly, please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm taking, a little liberty with it, maybe. But, the books that have shaped my spiritual life are spiritual texts. So something like, something that's very accessible, that just gives you this. I love wisdom teachings. Something like the Dhammapada. The Dhammapada is the most accessible Buddhist text that we have. You see, it's very small, and this is an old translation, but it doesn't matter what translation you get of the Dhammapada. These are very short, little, wise axioms. Most of it is just very short, little wise parables or axioms, and it's wonderful. This kind of thing is something that will shape the way that you think, just on an essential basis. Don't put the cart before the horse. Something like that. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. And that's these truths that can't be ever gotten away from. But I pulled out a few that actually gave me a lot of perspective changes and shaped the way that I see the world. And one is the Lotus Sutra. I've touched on this in my hopeful book tag for sure. But I pulled out this edition is the threefold Lotus Sutra. This is a guide put out by the same publishing group that put out that threefold Lotus Sutra that I showed, Risho Kosekai. This is great. This is a great companion. And then soon off of a Lotus Sutra study, I got into the Avatamsaka Sutra, the flower ornament of the Buddha. Flower Ornament Sutra, as it's translated. That is a spectacular work. It will blow your mind, and all you really need is a chapter 39. Chapter 39, the final chapter, is a whole book in of itself. It's a massive work, the Avatamsaka Sutra. So the final is the entering into the door of reality, and it gave me a wonderful spiritual perspective and a perspective on what it means to be human. So other than that, another that definitely gave me a lot of augmentation to my personality and how I saw the world and changed the way that I look at the world is the Cabal Eon. So the Cabal Eon is a text that appeared mid 1900s, 1950s, 1940s, 1950s maybe. I'm not too sure the date. It was written anonymously. It was written under the pseudonym of the Three Initiates. Now, with just a little bit of digging, you can find out that the writer is a man named William Walker Atkinson. And William Walter Atkinson wrote a lot of books. Wrote a lot of spiritual books. Not spiritual, just to gloss over it and make it seem like some kind of, new age or something like that. He wrote spiritual books under several pseudonyms and let out a lot of serious teachings. So I highly recommend it. And then none less, through reading it and being deeply into it and then falling away from it and then looking at it as something different than what it is and then coming back to it later in life. Nothing better than the Bible. This is my Masonic edition. We've got a lot of supplemental material in here on Solomon's Temple and everything like that. But what really is going to is just read it. Just read it, guys. I would say, you don't need anything special. You don't need anything to engage in spiritual study. You just have to be willing to read it. So those kind of things is what has really shaped my my life. So I don't know who's done this tag. This tag is really fun though. I'd like to tag people specifically, but I don't know who has gotten into this at all. But if I'm gonna throw out some names there, then I'm gonna tag Christy Louise Dostoevsky in space. It seems like we've had some total similarities on our liking stuff and what we kind of get into. So please do the tag, share with me how you are the reader. You know what I mean? And then some things I would love to hear everybody's take on this. Honestly, but I would love to hear Lukash from Totally Pretentious. I would love to hear what the first book you fell in love with, and what book kind of has given you perspective on in your life, things like that. Jack, the Rambling Raconteur, please, I would love to tag you as well. And but really, I want to open it up. Anybody who wants to do it, please do it. Kelly did a good job with this one, and thank you, BookTube. Have a good evening. Hope everybody is happy and healthy. Bye bye.